Welcome to West Shore Community. Good morning and welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. My name's Diane Alcorn and I am the Membership and Engagement Coordinator here. If this is your first time visiting with us, welcome. We're glad you took the time to join us here. If you'd like more information about our church and our worship community, please feel free and send me an email. In the meantime, again, welcome. We're so glad you took the time to join us.
Welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, a spiritual community whose hope is audacious and whose vision is for a more equitable and just world for all. I'm Reverend Anthony McCarr, Senior Minister of this wonderful community, and joining me this morning are Dave Blazer, Music Director, Julie Fogle, Vocalist, Grace Durfee, Worship Associate, and Christine Solante and Bob Beamer, who are our wonderful tech folks making this live stream possible. On this Sunday, which is Pride Sunday, when we are especially mindful of our brother and sister and sibling LGBTQ plus folks and affirm them and us with gratitude and love, we are pleased to welcome you into this space, which is connecting people in Cleveland and beyond to our welcoming community. Sad to say, the world is often not so welcoming. Often the values of the world are neither loving nor just. So may this worship hour be one in which our souls are fed by a wisdom and a passion that remind us that life does not have to be this way, that there exists a larger love in every human heart, urging us on to what is better. Let this larger love move in our midst today. May it stir in our midst. May each of us in some way feel touched by it, moved by it, changed by it. A special welcome to you this morning if you are a newcomer to our community, gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, whatever your race or ethnicity, you are welcome. Our West Shore regulars would love to greet you and will do so if you indicate on the Facebook chat that you are new or relatively new. If you happen to have any questions and would like to chat with a live person, West Shore's Member and Engagement Coordinator, Diane Elkhorn, would love to reach out. Diane's email address is being added to your Facebook chat as we speak. And now, some announcements from Megan.
Good morning. I have just 2 announcements for you today. The first is a reminder that our Summer Pen Pals program is back. Did you know that some of our Pen Pal pairings from previous Pen Pal programs are still in touch and have maintained their friendships? If you'd like to make a new friend here at West Shore, I hope you'll join this fun program. Register by June 16th, and then starting June 20th, you'll send 1 letter, card, or picture every week for 4 weeks. I will add the link to register to the Facebook chat in a moment, and you can contact me with any questions. And lastly, I would like to thank all of the volunteers who made yesterday's Pride Ride and Pride Day celebration a success. We had over 30 West Shore members participate in the Pride Ride, and nearly 60 children and adults came to the Pride Day events here at church. I hope you will stop by West Shore and look at the beautiful chalk drawings on our sidewalk along Hilliard Boulevard. They send a special message of love and welcoming to anybody who walks by. Happy Pride, everybody. Thank you.
And I want to add my personal thanks to all the folks who organized the Pride Ride and the Pride celebration here at West Shore. You do so many things that make me proud of this community, proud of this church, and that's one of them. It was a delight. It was wonderful to be out there participating in the Pride Ride. And just thank you so much for you showing up and bearing witness in our Cleveland community. And now for a last announcement, I have a special guest to introduce, West Shore member and Ohio State Senator, Nikki Antonio.
Hi, I'm State Senator Nikki Antonio, representing Lakewood, Parma, parts of Cleveland, and western Cuyahoga County. I want to invite you to a coffee and discussion hosted via Zoom by the West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church on June 6th at 11:30 a.m. In this discussion, we're going to touch on issues and bills currently in the Ohio General Assembly, such as an anti-protest legislation, gerrymandering, voter suppression, and a recently introduced bill that would ban the teaching of critical race theory here in Ohio. To register for this event, please visit the church website or Facebook. I hope to see you there as we talk about these important issues and how we can push back to help Ohio move forward.
Thank you, Nikki. I'll be there, and I hope you'll join me today, right after our service. Once again, welcome to this new day. Every week we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It is a beautiful reminder that no matter what the previous week has been like, personally or events in our larger world, no matter what it's been like, the gathered community that is West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church is a source of stability and meaning that we can all rely on. Please say with me our words, originally inspired by Maya Angelou. This is our chalice. In many separate rooms, we light one flame. Flame of passion, flame of compassion, flame of humor, flame of style. We do not accept merely surviving. Let our mission be to thrive. Together in spirit, we are one. And let us now witness to the unity of our spirit by saying our unison affirmation words. Love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio su ley. Este es nuestro magnífico convenio, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. And so may it be. And now, as we turn to our time of greeting, we do so with a special video about pride.
We've been taught that silence would save us, but it won't.
I can't live my life straight because you're straight. I can't. I just gotta live my life for me and do it for me because this is my life.
I've done my hair down, I've worn the dresses, I've done things that aren't natural to me to please other people.
I was told to wipe off my makeup and be a boy. What they should have told me was to be myself.
If other people aren't comfortable, that is not your problem. That is their problem.
I want to tell other queer people that it is okay to be yourself. We won't stand for hatred.
LGBTQ plus people are strong and resilient. We're not gonna go away.
It's so important that we keep fighting for the right to be who we are, the right to love whoever we want to love.
Like all civil rights movements that have gone before, we're not going to give up.
I'm still a proud gay man, okay?
We have to be out and proud and visible where we can for the people where they can't.
I live pride every single day.
Refuse to ever give up.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back! 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 What do we do? Stand up, fight back!
Los amamos.
I love you. Stay strong.
Pride is about breaking the silence and the suffocation of shame. Pride is about the struggle to be oneself freely and fully. Pride is because the ignorance and the hate of too many people is fierce and must be confronted. Thank God for pride. And now, let's turn to a more personal sharing of names and news that people have asked to be shared. And I am most happy to share the news that affiliated community minister, the Reverend Michelle Ma, our former ministerial intern, will be taking an interim ministry position at the Unitarian Coastal Fellowship in Morehead City, North Carolina. Congratulations and best wishes for a continued successful ministry. Let each of us now say the names of people whom we are holding in our personal thoughts and prayers this morning. People in our West Shore community, people beyond our community. Wherever you happen to be, say these names out loud into the space of your room, as if the act of just saying the name is like a prayer, which it is. You may even type the name into our West Shore Facebook chat if you like. I'll pause for a moment as we do this. This has been our greeting time when we are called out of our 24/7 ordinary world and we are called into something special, something wonderful, what some folks call a beloved community of gentle, angry people.
and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gray and great together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Good morning. I'm Grace Durfee, your worship associate for today. Do you remember playing the Hokey Pokey? I always got a kick out of this song and its actions, especially the last part where you put your whole self in and you shake it all about. I think this is how we are meant to be in this world, totally jumping in and experiencing the full spectrum of life, with joyous and dark times and everything in between. We just got back from being on the road since May 21st, visiting friends and family in Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Florida. Our time away wasn't exactly a leave your cares behind kind of holiday. While there were plenty of good times, with hugs, remember those? Yummy food and long catch-up conversations, the middle part of our trip was very challenging. This was when we were in Virginia, helping my brother out, which was the main reason for our trip. My brother suffers from mental illness and nearly fell through the cracks after being fired from his only job that he's had since school. He lost his job in August of 2019 and had depleted his retirement savings and was over $10,000 in debt to his landlord by the time we learned of his situation back in February. Since then, my sister and I have put together a GoFundMe campaign and have worked hard to get him Medicaid, food stamps, a year's worth of back rent aid, and stimulus checks. There was, however, only so much that we could do over the internet and by phone. So once we were all vaccinated, we made the trip down to help. We bought him new clothes and bedding, took him to a barber for a much-needed haircut and shave, We added him to our phone plan and taught him how to do internet searches, which he immediately took to. We stocked him up with food and helped him get comfortable using his EBT card. We took him to an agency for some financial coaching sessions, organized a garbage bag that was full of papers into files, and filled out mountains of forms to help him apply for disability status. We also took him on picnics and out to eat and took him to visit some family friends. We crammed a lot into our 5 days with him. Nature really came to the rescue to help me recharge and release stress during these times. Every time I was by a body of water, I started to feel my cup beginning to fill again. My husband Bill and I took several walks under the full supermoon, which felt magical, almost as if I was absorbing moonbeams. And once we got to my German host parents' slice of paradise in Florida, I finally slowed down and I let myself take in the visual feast of Spanish moss, beautiful tropical flowers, and water birds. I was especially filled with wonder one time that a family of sandhill cranes came right up to the lanai to see and be seen. I let myself be pampered by delicious meals, loving hospitality, and skinny dipping under the stars. Although I probably could use a vacation to recover from this vacation, we will be putting our whole selves in and shaking it all about once again when our sons and their gals come later this week to help us celebrate Bill's 65th birthday. As that last line of the Hokey Pokey goes, that's what it's all about.
Thank you, Grace. And now we turn to today's call to the offering, which is about this community's financial generosity and the many forms that it takes. Because there are many forms, there can also be questions and sometimes misunderstandings. So let's take a closer look, which is really about comparing how West Shore uses money to how you and I, as individual households, might use money. One thing I know for sure is that there's got to be a way to pay for basic expenses, from the monthly mortgage or rent to utility bills, to groceries, or to the car payment, to going out to various activities and entertainments, and if you have children, all the bills related to this. These are all basic, non-extraordinary expenses we want to cover. West Shore is similar. It has basic expenses, too, that enable our church to exist day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. All these expenses are itemized in our annual budget, and your annual pledge goes to help pay for them. Now, there are times when you might attend a special event as a way to help a favored nonprofit raise money for good works. You do that because it's going to be fun, and you also believe in the cause. West Shore, too, offers special fundraising events like our annual service auction to create great memories and a lot of fun. And all the money raised is planned for in our annual budget and helps us pay for basic expenses. But we also know that things can happen which are not planned for in our annual budget. These events might surprise us, and here again I'm talking about our individual households. Things happening like when you go to the dentist and after your checkup they announce that you are going to require $3,000 in bills to put a couple of crowns in your mouth. Other events maybe aren't as surprising, like longer-term maintenance issues, the need to replace one's roof, for example, or to renovate one's kitchen. Call these one-time needs. And in private life, we might draw on any savings we have to pay for them, or draw on a credit card, or borrow money, or cash in on any stocks that we may have. Similarly, at West Shore, we've got one-time needs too that are just too big for the annual budget. The cost, for example, of the 50-year maintenance project of our organ. So here, we invite folks to make special one-time gifts. Gifts to such projects are given freely because the giver believes in what they're giving to, and it makes them feel good. Givers also understand that their special one-time gift only goes to the special project at hand, and that the congregation's basic expenses still remain, and we still need to pay for them through people's annual pledges. Finally, think about how people can give through their wills. This is planned giving. My grandmother, when she died, put $50,000 in her will for every one of her grandkids because she wanted to bless us. And I tell you, I felt that blessing. I was so grateful. That money represented a lifetime of work of hers and of my grandfather's. They came to Canada as immigrants. They worked all their lives at blue-collar jobs. That money was a blessing. Similarly, people can remember West Shore in their wills. They can designate a certain amount of money to be put forward to the support of the congregation. A major recipient of such gifts is the Endowment Fund. Monies in the Endowment Fund accrue interest income over long periods of time, and this interest income can be used to help us meet our budget goals and pay for basic expenses. That's just a little on the different kinds of financial gifts that you can give to West Shore and how they each have a different purpose. And now, if you'd like to offer West Shore a special financial gift, which will go for paying basic expenses, please follow the text instruction on your screen. Yet another blessing of this community that we rely on is the healing power of music. Here now is Julie Fogle singing "I Will Survive," accompanied by Dave Blazer.
At first I was afraid, I was petrified, kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong, and I grew strong, and I learned how to get along, and so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed that stupid lock, I should have made you leave your key. If I'd have known for just 1 second you'd be back to bother me. No, now go, walk out the door, just turn around now, 'cause you're not welcome anymore. Aren't you the one who tried to break me with goodbye? Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and die? Oh no, not I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. I got all my life to live, and I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive. Hey, hey. Took all the strength I had not to fall apart, trying hard to mend these pieces of my broken heart. And I spent so many nights feeling sorry for myself, and I used to cry. But now I hold my head up high, and you see me, somebody new. I'm not that chained up little person still in love with you. And you thought you'd just pop by and you expect me to be free. I'm saving all my
And now, a special meditation on the sights and sounds of Walden Pond in Concord, Massachusetts.
We leave you this autumnal Sunday at Walden Pond in Concord, Massachusetts.
However mean your life is, says Henry David Thoreau, meet it and live it. Do not shun it and call it hard names. It is not so bad as you are. It looks poorest when you are richest. The fault finder will find faults even in paradise. Love your life, poor as it is. I had read this passage from our Unitarian Universalist spiritual ancestor on a morning many years back while I was still living in Atlanta after a sleepless night full of drama. What had happened was this. The day before, in late afternoon, I had left my house to go and officiate at a wedding, and all was well. But upon my return, about 10 o'clock in the evening, when I was close to driving up to my house, I saw how the neighborhood was lit up like a Christmas tree. Streets were closed, heavy equipment was everywhere, there were people in hard hats, and it just so happened that there was a huge hole where the end of my driveway had once been. A huge hole, allowing those hard-hatted folks to fix a leaky water main. Imagine my surprise. Turns out that the culprit was the tall pine at the edge of my property, which up till that moment had seemed friendly enough to me. Little did I know that the roots over the years had silently aimed for the water pipe running deep underground. I went to sleep that night with the music of buzz saws in my ears. Thus, the Henry David Thoreau passage the next morning, while I was being serenaded by the bangs and crashes and beeps of our county's water department tractors and personnel at the literal edge of my driveway, attached to the house that I had just purchased 3 weeks earlier. Yeah, right, 3 weeks earlier. So I awoke ready for some good news. And so, Thoreau's message, love your life, poor as it is. I had read the passage before, but changed circumstances, especially when adversity is involved, well, they have a way of deepening one's sensitivity and perspective. Love your life. Love your life. The morning wind forever blows, says Thoreau. The poem of creation is uninterrupted, but few are the ears that can hear it. Yes, it is hard to hear this poem of creation when within it is both the good and the bad, the joy of a new house and the woe of water spraying everywhere and water department tractors and personnel ripping up your driveway. We do not hear holy. This is Thoreau's constant refrain in his classic book entitled Walden, inspired by his social distancing experiment of living by Walden Pond all alone for 2 years. We do not hear holy, and we also fail to grasp the breadth and the depth of life's gifts to us. So he says, the universe is wider than our views of it. He says, be an explorer to whole new continents and worlds within you. He says, there is an incessant influx of novelty into the world, and yet we tolerate incredible dullness. Again and again, our spiritual ancestor wants us to face up to the tragedy of how the poetry of creation goes unheard in all or even in much of its complexity. Tragic, because our unique vocation as human beings in all the wide universe is to witness to creation's poetry, to witness to that. And beyond that, to become creators ourselves of a poetry of human living that is freedom-loving, compassionate, and just. This is, after all, the same Thoreau who, out of disgust towards slavery and the corruptions of the American government of his time, wrote Civil Disobedience. And he passionately enjoined his readers to personally enact a poetry of refusing to allow oneself to become a passive agent of social evil, of just doing what the authorities tell you to do. Resist, he said, not violently, he added, but non-violently. Gandhi, for one, heard him, and so did Dr. King. What we are speaking of this morning is our holy vocation as human beings, trusting that abundance is deeper than scarcity, trusting that wholeness is deeper than fragmentation. And then living into that trust, letting that trust fill you up and send you wherever you must go. In the case of my poor house, which I'd owned for just 3 weeks, knowing that the gaping hole in my driveway and the broken water main and the construction sounds and all of that would only be one note in the larger song of my entire time in that house, never mind the complex symphony of my entire life. And then in the case of real injustices in our world, knowing that despite how fearfully destructive specific actions of evil can be, and certainly systems of evil can be, still there persists in the human heart a resilient love that will remain ever restless until wrong is made right. I go to Thoreau to be reminded of exactly this. And you know, it's true of so many people. So many people go to our Unitarian Universalist spiritual ancestor to be reconnected with a sense of perspective and purpose and wholeness, to be confirmed in the hope that, as he says, if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with success in common hours. One of these people is Wade Rouse. Wade Rouse is the author of At Least Someone in the City Would Hear Me Scream, Misadventures in Search of the Simple Life. And in this book, he talks about what it was like to grow up gay in rural America. He says, I grew up worshiping Irma Bombeck instead of George Brett, Joe Montana, or Buck Owens. When boys from school would come to my house, they would inevitably make fun of my books, entitled The Grass is Always Greener Over the Septic Tank, and If Life is a Bowl of Cherries, What Am I Doing in the Pits? Which I had sitting on my nightstand, and the photo of her that I had pinned to my corkboard wall. They would ask me, what's wrong with you? Which is why I ran and kept on running, says Wade Rouse, running away from rural America until I found myself in the city doing everything but what I had initially set out to do. I wanted to write. I was making great money. I was traveling. I was eating at the best restaurants. But was I happy? Ultimately, this question, this yearning, would lead Wade Rouse to emulate Thoreau and return, after so many years, to life in a rural setting and an opportunity for the poem of creation to emerge for him and to become known by him. There are just so many stories of people engaging in their own Walden-like experience. Another one comes from psychologist Stella Resnick in her book, The Pleasure Zone, Why We Resist Good Feelings and How to Let Go and Be Happy. She says, after years of graduate training and study, I became a successful therapist with a thriving practice in San Francisco. I bought a home, I made many friends, and traveled widely giving talks and seminars. The only problem was that I wasn't happy. Here I was, a therapist. I clearly had something worthwhile to offer others. My practice was full. But why wasn't it working for me? I had been in the best therapy for years for myself, with leaders in my field. I had my insights, my dramatic breakthroughs when I would erupt into tears and rage over the pain of my childhood, my parents' divorce when I was only 5, the years living with a neglecting mother and a physically abusive stepfather. I did yoga, I meditated, I exercised, I became a vegetarian. Why did I still suffer? Why was I not happy? It would lead her to spend a year in the country, more alone, she says, than ever before. But this time, she goes on to say, it was a chosen solitude. For guidance, I read Henry David Thoreau's Walden. Like Thoreau, I had a pond full of croaking frogs in the summer, which froze over in the winter. Like Thoreau, I had a visitor now and then and made regular forays into town for supplies. And like Thoreau, days and days would go by when I neither saw nor spoke to another living human being. It may not be too hard to imagine this in this time of the pandemic and social distancing, although Stella Resnick's experience is very different from all of that in that she went into social distancing intentionally. She wanted to. She could go freely. Her story is fascinating, especially in the way that it goes deeper and deeper. At first, it was just loneliness and crankiness. She says, I would find myself staring at a wall, not knowing how long I had been sitting there staring or what I had been so lost in thought over. Some nights, When the cold winter wind blew especially hard, I would stay awake. I'd be stuffing newspapers between the planks of the uninsulated walls of this summer house, grumbling to myself and wondering how this was ever going to make me into a cheerier person. At first, it was this. But then, the powerful insight came upon her, which is the theme of her book. She says, "What I began to discover during those endless days was how very little I knew about how to be happy on a daily basis. Now, I knew how to criticize myself for how I wasn't good enough, but I did not know how to take on a day and enjoy it. I began to see," she says, that while understanding and releasing pain is certainly crucial for lasting results in psychotherapy, it's not enough. Getting good at struggling with problems just makes you more skillful at struggling with problems. To enjoy life more, it is better to become skillful at what inspires your enthusiasm and generates vitality and good feelings. This struggle of Stella Resnick's is just so important to hear. Struggling with problems is not the path to generating joy. It is just not. The fault finder will indeed find faults, even in paradise. Stella Resnick and Thoreau are on the same page. Sometimes, says Thoreau of his time at Walden Pond, sometimes in a summer morning, having taken my accustomed bath, I sat in my sunny doorway from sunrise till noon, wrapped in a reverie amidst the pines and the hickories and the sumacs, in undisturbed solitude and stillness, while the birds sang around me or flitted noiselessly through the house, until by the sun's falling at my west window, or the noise of some traveler's wagon on a distant highway, I was reminded of the lapse of time. I grew in those seasons like corn in the night, and they were far better than any work of the hands could have been. They were not time subtracted from my life, but so much over and above my usual allowance." Thoreau here was practicing the art of living, even as his more proper neighbors completely misunderstood what he was all about. They thought he was escaping life, when in fact he was living more deeply into life, applying a discipline of reverie and simple enjoyment that to many folks is in fact quite difficult. Along these same lines, Stella Resnick goes on to say, "I certainly have learned a lot over the years, watching people at the office grapple with their need for love and with their sexual longings, and then watching my husband and myself grapple with these same issues at home. A major factor that goes unaddressed in most relationships, because it is so completely taken for granted, is the common tendency to make matters worse by inflicting pain on ourselves and the people we care about, all in the name of trying to make things better. We seem to hold a curious philosophy," she says, "that what brings people closer is talking about all the problems that they have, all the ways in which they displease each other, I have seen couples who could easily itemize what was lacking for them in the relationship, carefully spelling out their resentments, their disappointments, their sexual complaints, who would resist saying how much they appreciated one another. We just get so good at solving problems, in other words, that we just can't step outside of problem-oriented conversations, orientations, with ourselves or with others. A sunny doorway is just not drama-ridden enough to hold us. And so we can't sit there. What is right in our lives and our relationships is like the wallpaper. It just goes unnoticed. What is right in our lives is so uncomfortable to talk about, since we're unpracticed in it, or it goes against the grain of our philosophy. What will it take? What will it take to go from being problem-oriented, just that, to creating some room also for being joy-oriented and appreciative? I go back to that day many years ago when I was hungry for some good news, and I read Thoreau. I read how he says, "Love your life as poor as it is." I repeated it again and again as though it were fine wine on my tongue while I watched Atlanta's water department tractors and personnel at the edge of my driveway working away, and I saw the massive hole, and I saw all the mud, and I saw all the muck. Love your life, poor as it is. Love your life, poor as it is. Let's turn once again to Wade Rouse, his Walden story. The day in his life when everything changed, and he made his decision to get out of the city and do the Thoreau thing. He writes, "I had been waking up at 4 a.m. to write my first memoir about growing up gay, entitled America's Boy. I had been consumed with writing about my childhood, the beauty, the horror, the unconditional transformational love of family, and could not sleep any longer without that getting it all out. One morning, when it came time for me to go to my job as a PR director at a prep school, a position that entailed a lot of schmoozing and also dwindling self-esteem, I had to force myself to stop writing by turning on the TV as loud as possible to distract myself." Wade Rouse continues, "It was the Today Show. The Today Show was blaring as I raced around our tiny city bungalow, leapfrogging over our mutt named Marge in the hallway. Matt Lauer was interviewing a couple who had quit their jobs to run a B&B in Bali. We have discovered the secret of happiness. Follow your obsession, they told Matt. And what I said was, 'You freaks!' I screamed that out to the TV. 'You freaks!' I yelled at that TV as I dry swallowed a vitamin, aspirated kashi, lint brushed my suit, reviewed my meeting notes, and tossed a bones down the basement stairs for Marge to follow. I'm happy." I found myself in my car, already late for work, another day of insanity and stupidity, already preoccupied about what I was wearing, preoccupied about the fact that I didn't have enough time to write, preoccupied about the last thing I'd yelled. I was happy, damn it. Or was I happy in the way that sheep or lobotomy patients are happy, mindlessly bleeding and going through the motions? Was I just one of the sheeple? Part sheep, part people? A term a friend of mine liked to use when referring to many Americans who seem to sleepwalk through their lives. I got into my car. I gripped the wheel and saw that my hands were shaking. I eased out into an all-out traffic jam and instantly came to a complete stop. No, no, no! Move, traffic! I'm late! And for that moment in my life, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't rush ahead. So I started thinking about my morning, about my life. Was I having a bad morning or a bad life? I asked myself again, Wade, are you happy? And then I became emotional. So emotional, in fact, that I lowered my head on my steering wheel and began to sob as Christina Aguilera told me I was beautiful. When a car honked to knock me out of my stupor, to let me know I could inch ahead a few feet, I lifted my head from the wheel in time to see a man holding a sign on an overpass right above the highway. The man who looked like a greasy, heavily medicated version of Jesus held aloft a cardboard sign that read in poorly scrawled letters, "What would you do if you could not fail?" He was backlit by the morning sun, rays splaying from behind his body, and the image looked like one of those religious paintings, in black velvet perhaps, or color by numbers, that you'd find buried under other crap in cluttered antique stores. As my car inched toward the overpass, the man simply reached over and, as if on cue, dropped that sign. He dropped that sign. It flittered and fluttered and floated like a butterfly and caught a crosswind before landing directly over my windshield. All I could see in close-up 3D, my eyes crossing to make sure I was still reading it correctly, was its message. What would you do if you could not fail? I braked immediately, panicked, unable to see, and fetched the sign off my window, ignoring the angry honking of drivers. I shoved that sign, which was covered in grimy fingerprints and smelled like gas and motor oil, into my back seat. As I came out from underneath the overpass, I glanced in my rear view mirror, and Jesus was waving at me, alternatively blowing kisses and doing the sign of the cross, like a mix of the Pope and Liza Minnelli. The sun had obliterated his face into an explosion of whiteness as my eyes turned towards the road again. It was then I caught a glimpse of the backside of Jesus' cardboard sign reflected in the driver's mirror. It was the outside of a packing box with an address that read, Walden's Automotive. And that's Wade Rouse's story. The struggles that we can go through to get to a place where we can even begin to hear the poetry of the universe. How we can struggle. But although there are times we may abandon ourselves, the universe does not abandon us. The world can reach out to us through synchronicities, just like the one Wade Rouse experienced. The world calls to us to a larger life of witnessing to the wonder and the mystery of creation, which is about how abundance is deeper than scarcity and wholeness is deeper than fragmentation. And no matter how bad life can get, hope yet remains. Hope is unconquerable. The wonder and the mystery is that Walden never stops trying to find us wherever we are. The wonder and the mystery is that there was ever a man named Henry David Thoreau. Like that guy in the overpass, he waves to us from more than 150 years ago. Love your life, he says to me, despite that broken water main. Love your life, he says to you, to us, despite all the problems. Problem solving is one thing, but joy raising is something else. The fault finder will find faults even in paradise. Can there be trust that abundance is deeper than scarcity? Can there be trust that wholeness is deeper than fragmentation? What would you do if you could not fail? What would that be? Love your life, West Shore. Love your life, friends. Start with love, to end with love. Love your life. Love your life. So may it be. Our closing hymn is number 14, The Sun at High Noon.
The sun at high noon, the stars in dark space, the light of the moon on each upturned face, the high clouds, the rain clouds, the lark's song on high, we gaze up in wonder above to the sky. The green grassy glade, the grasshopper sound, the creatures of shade that live in the ground, the dark soil, the moist soil, where plants spring to birth. We look down and wonder below in the earth. The glad joys that heal, the tears in our eyes, the longings we feel, the light of surprise, the night dreams or daydreams, our thoughts routine wide, we live with a whole world of wonder inside. Now bring your chalice close to extinguish it, as I extinguish our chalice here and we say our words together. We extinguish our flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. Please remember the Zoom meeting following this service about Ohio's anti-democratic legislative proposals. In our conversation features Senator Antonio. I will be there. Please join me. Following that will be our regular sermon chat at 12:30, and I hope to see you there also. And now, our benediction words. May you find and walk the path that leads to abundance and balance. Of problems there are plenty. Let your hands fly to the work they are called to do. Let each of us do our part to build and repair the common good. Yet find the joys that are there too, which aren't so much about solving problems. They're about absorbing and enjoying what is already good. When there are sunny moments and you can just sit in your doorway and, like Thoreau, enjoy simple reverie, grow in joy. Yes, do that. Do that too. This is the abundance path. This is the balanced way. May you find it. Ashe and amen. So may it be. Love, courage, and to you, West Shore. Until next week.